All right, and we are going live now. Going live now. Proust Tech. Dave's Live Linux Labs coming at you. And just getting the message out on Discord and elsewhere. Some nice little intro music that came built in with the Rodecaster. Fun stuff. Stock music. We'll have to replace that with some other things at some point. Still fun. All right, so welcome. For those of you that are connecting or have been waiting, welcome. My name's Dave, and this is Dave's Live Linux Labs, episode 2. We are here to work with more Linux and continuing on our Linux journey. So last week we did the first of this series, and it's something that I want to do every week if possible. And it went pretty well. There was people in the chat. I didn't really notify anybody by mail or anything this time because I was so busy this weekend. But I'm just now sending out the messages on Discord. And I see there's a lot of Discord messages for me. So I will get to those as soon as possible after we do this live stream. All right, so people coming in now, welcome everyone. Welcome to Dave's Live Linux Labs. We'll be here for anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, see how much we can get done today. Lots to do with Linux, lots to do with configuring my system. All right, so let me just kind of get set up here. All right. Great. So welcome everyone. So today, episode 2, here's what we have on the agenda. First of all, why am I live streaming? And I talked about this last week, but we'll get into it again. And we'll get into fast fetch. For some reason, I messed up the config file with that last week. And so we'll quickly show how the fix for that goes and get that configuration running. Then what happened to that KVM install? So last week we installed KVM, and every time we tried to run the virtual machine manager, it would kick out the service. And I was fairly sure that that was because I hadn't restarted the computer. Normally you need to do a full restart of Linux before you can get KVM to work properly. And in fact, that was the case. So we'll show more with KVM. And I want to build a Debian virtual machine within KVM, a golden image, if you will. So I'll start the build for that today. Also, fish config. I'm using fish as my shell, and so I want to configure that a little bit and then install Starship as a prompt, basically, to use with the fish shell. I like the combination of those. Also, I need a countdown script, and so I built one at the end of last week. Actually, I was working on it for a while. It was kind of a back burner project, and now it's finished. And so we'll show that, and I'll show the new repository that I have for fun types of scripts like that. And then also updating Debian Sid, because that is what we do every Monday. So we'll do that on my laptop and also on my old main system. And just send a message out in the chat. Okay. All right. And so people will probably, start flowing in a little bit more as we go, because YouTube notifies at least some of the subscribers, and Discord takes a while to get out to everybody. So a little time with this intro. All right. So this is episode 2. Let's get into it. Howdy, knowledge. And good to have you here. All right, so let's get into it. So a little quick recap. Why am I live streaming? So the whole reason behind this is to share my experience. So everything that I've learned with Linux and other technologies, I want to share that, and YouTube seems like a good platform to do it. This is only my second ever live stream, and it appears to be working and flowing pretty well. We had a hiccup at the very beginning but it looks like it's fine now. But I like to share what I know. That's basically it. Share my experiences, share what I've learned, especially with Linux, because I love working with Linux. So that's the whole point here. And it's also to turn people on to my website, prouse.tech, and also some of the training that I do for O'Reilly and for Pearson Education. But this is completely separate from those. This is really me working in my lab and showing all the stuff that I have to do in my lab with all my different systems and servers and virtual machines and so on and so forth. So right now, I've been rebuilding my lab a whole lot, and I showed a lot of that in the first episode, which is available on YouTube. But I built a whole new workstation, and so went through the whole build, did the install of Linux and everything else. But when you build a new system, you have to do a whole ton of configuration. So I figured, why not show all that in real time for you? And so that's really the reason for having this. All right. So fast fetch, the config file blunder. So I made a mistake with fast fetch. I was trying to configure it, and there was no configuration file to work with yet. You have to actually generate it first. So I'm going to go over to my terminal here, and we'll get out of Pavu control. That's a sound panel. And just checking my audio here, looks pretty good. Actually, what I was doing there with Pavu control was checking my input devices. And I like to boost everything that comes out of my Rodecaster up to about 5 decibels, plus 5 decibels. So that was the reason for using that. So I'll just interrupt that signal with the Control-C. And so we were talking about fast fetch last week. And when you run it, you'll get all kinds of information. It's like NeoFetch, but it's a newer system. It's a newer program, I should say. And so fast fetch works pretty well to just get a nice snapshot of a lot of the things on your system. However, you might want to configure it further. And to do so, you first have to create a configuration file. So that's what I didn't do last time. And so if we do a --gen-config, and let me get out of the way here. If we do a --gen-config, okay, and press enter, that will create that configuration file. And it creates that in this directory, in your home directory, your user account, in .config, then fast fetch, and it creates a file called config.jsonc. At this point, we can add items to that. So I could take this whole path and just copy and paste that. And we'll do a vim on that path, because vim is the editor that I'm using. And press enter to get in there. And you'll see that we can make modifications here within this file. So items that you want to use are in the, or I should say, items that you are using are in the modules section. And you can add additional ones here if you wish to. And if you want to see a list, I'll just get out of Vim. If you want to see a list of those, you can do a fast fetch. And that'll be a --list-modules. And then you can see the entire list of those. And so that was my command right there. So if you wanted to add anything, those are the ones that you would add to that JSON file. All right. And great knowledge. Good to know that you've been learning and left Windows long ago. Okay, so good. Yeah, and let's just get into Linux more, right? And so that's another reason that I'm doing this. My main system at home is Linux. My main system here, my workstation, is Linux. And so that's all I use for the most part. Now, if I have to work on a couple different apps, I need a different system once in a while. But really, for 98% of what I do, well, 95% of what I do, it's going to be Linux based. I have solutions for audio, for video, for gaming, which is easy today on Linux, and all sorts of other solutions, Office, and so on and so on. So Linux is definitely possible. You can use it and you can work with it. All right. So there's the fast fetch fix, the fast fetch fix. Very good. Okay, a couple more people coming in, so good to have you here. And welcome again. I'm Dave, and this is Dave's Live Linux Labs, episode 2, second ever live stream here. Feel free to comment in the chat, give a thumbs up, let me know how you're doing. And let's go to the next item here. Whatever happened to that KVM install that you did last week that wouldn't actually work properly? Well, let's take a look. Let's get into the system a little bit. And so the first thing I want to do is a systemctl status on libvirtd. That's one of the main services that KVM utilizes. And if we press enter for that, we see, well, right now it is inactive and dead, but it is enabled. So I'm going to start that up. And we'll do, I should have done that with sudo, but we'll just authenticate here. Either way. Okay, and now we'll check the status once again, and it shows it as active and running. So at this point, I'm going to go and take a look at my virtual machine manager. Okay, so this is the virtual machine manager, a little bit small, but this is the graphic tool that you can use to work with KVM on a Linux system. And so you want to make sure it's started. If you right click on QEMU KVM, you want to make sure that it is connected right now. And so we are connected. And so we're pretty good to go with this. KVM is now running properly. If I do have any additional issues with the service, I will post what those are and I'll fix those. But really what happened last week was we had to restart the entire computer to get that up and running properly because we couldn't start it from here. It would keep stopping the libvirtd service. And yeah, so KDE is awesome also. I use GNOME on my main system here, but I have KDE running on one of my laptops, and that's with, and also I use Cinnamon with Linux Mint, and but a lot of terminal as well. Another one of my laptops is a tiling window manager, so it doesn't really use a desktop at all. It's just tiling all the windows that you want to work in. So, but to each their own. For me, GNOME works best for the work that I do here, which is awesome. And I love all those desktops, but GNOME works best here. So the right tool for the job here. All right. So one of the things I want to do is I want to create a Debian virtual machine that I can use for webinars that I do for O'Reilly. So for example, we have a Terraform webinar coming up on Wednesday. And I'll put that in the chat here. There it is. And so that's on Wednesday. It's Terraform in 4 hours, showing people how to use Terraform and how to build infrastructure on the cloud automatically from your local station without having to even log into the AWS console or the Azure console or the GCP console or what have you. So we're doing that Terraform webinar on Wednesday. And yeah, big hearts for that. If you want, you can sign up for that. That's at O'Reilly. All of my big, long webinars are with O'Reilly. But to do that, I don't like to do it on my main system, because there's going to be all kinds of stuff that I do on my main system that people will be like, what exactly is that? And it'll look different than what they will do. The best way to do it is to have a virtual machine, a fresh virtual machine. And this way it kind of creates isolation and separates from your main system. Any configurations that I do in the virtual machine will just be there. They won't be in my main system. And then I tell all of the people that come into these webinars, hey, build your own virtual machine beforehand. If you work with a brand new Linux system with, say, GNOME, that'll work great. If you use Debian, that'll be even better because it'll be exactly like what I'm using. Now, up till now, I've been using Debian 12 for my virtual machines, but I want to get a Debian 13 virtual machine going because it's out. It's been out for a little while, and they have released the first minor release. And as you can see here, let me make this a little bigger. It shows Debian 13.1. So I'll always wait until the first minor release comes out. That is extremely helpful because they're going to get past a lot of the bugs that are in the system when they first release one of these new operating systems. So I'm going to download this. That's the first thing. We'll go to small installation image. And the platform I'm working on is AMD 64. And we'll click on that. And that actually started downloading already. And we got about 30 seconds left to 783 megabyte download. All right, so 13 isn't that much different than 12, but there are some increases in security. There are some brand new applications. It uses a much newer kernel than Debian 12. With Debian 12, I believe you're stuck at 6.1. With Debian 13, it's much higher. And so we'll show that. And wow, the download's already done. I wonder if that messed up my stream at all. I wonder. We'll have to maybe check that. I'm going to mark the timestamp here, 17 minutes, and see if that interfered at all. But I'm thinking no, should be fine. Okay, welcome to everybody coming in. We're in Dave's Linux Labs here, and we're doing some Linux Labs with Dave, me. And right now I'm downloading Debian 13 so that I can install it into a virtual machine within KVM on my Debian system. All right, so here's the virtual machine manager. And again, this is a little small, so my apologies for that. But to create a new virtual machine, we can just go to File, and thank you, Knowledge, good. And we'll go to New Virtual Machine. And you have to select what you want to install. I want to do it from local media, an ISO image that I just downloaded. Now, the question is, where did it download to? Because was I using Chromium? I might not have set that. It probably just went to downloads by default. And it did. Okay, yeah, I'll bring this over. This is Dolphin. I got Dolphin configured, which took me a while because it wouldn't show any icons. Now, for those of you that use KDE as your desktop, Dolphin is the default. And Dolphin is one of the tools I really love about KDE. So I use it on GNOME. But when you do so, it kind of gets weird with the fonts and with the icons and so forth. So there was a fix for that. Had to install Qt6 and set that up in the bash file. And then after a couple of tweaks, was able to get the icons working here. All right, so you can see a bunch of stuff that I have here. This is part of my code for project I'm working on, and then we have the downloads. But I'm going to move that file because actually I want that to be in ISOs. Okay, there we go. So I put that in my ISOs directory. All right, so local install media is what I want. I'm going to go forward for that. And then it's saying, okay, where is the media? We'll browse for that. And what KVM does is it does a default location for your images. It puts it in /var/lib/libvirt/images. And I like to actually have the ISOs in a separate directory. In some cases in the past, I've had the images for the virtual machines on a separate drive so that they would run really well. I only have one drive on this system so far, and I don't think I'm going to need anything more. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a new directory, first of all, for ISOs. And I'm going to call this pool ISO. And we'll browse to it now. We'll go to home, and ISO is what we want. There we go. Click finish. And now we have the ISO directory. And if we click on that, we'll see the ISO image that I downloaded Fantastic. That's what we're going to use. So we'll choose that. And I'm asking it to automatically detect from the installation. It's not doing it. So I'm going to say Debian. And this version of KVM that we're running here on Ubuntu does not recognize Debian 13. The Debian 12 listing will be fine. It'll work fine in here, I believe. But if I wanted to actually see Debian 13, we'd have to upgrade KVM. I don't really want to do that on this system just yet. So we're going to do that and leave it as Debian 12, even though we're installing Debian 13. We'll go forward. Okay. Oh, and it says the emulator may not have search permissions for the path. I didn't set that up yet. Okay, we'll say yes to that. That may or may not fix it. If it doesn't, we have to go into the terminal and add in either the root account or the libvirt account for access to those directories. All right, now for this particular virtual machine, and I'm not sure if this will function yet without the permissions. We'll see if KVM fixed that automatically. But for this particular virtual machine, and you know what? Let me go a little bit bigger here. Let's go into Dome Tweaks, and we'll go to Fonts, and let's make this 1.5. Okay. When I do that, everything gets bigger on my screen. It's massive. So we'll make this smaller in the terminal. Go back to my virtual machine manager. Okay, so there you go. It's a little bit bigger. They can see this a little bit easier now, right? Okay, good. So I want this to have a lot of memory and a lot of CPU power. The whole reason for building this new workstation that I'm working at here was, one, to be able to do things in OBS, like doing these live streams right now. And I'm seeing some kind of weird noise on, oh, okay, that was just because of the size change. Okay, so one of the main reasons was to do OBS and be able to record really powerful videos with a high level of encoding and also do these live streams. That was kind of an afterthought. But another thing was to have KVM running and have it running powerfully with lots of ability to run powerful VMs with lots of resources. So generally, with my virtual machines, I'll run 8,192 megabytes of RAM, or 8 gigs. But I think I can go past this. We'll leave it at 8,192 for now. And we'll say 4 CPUs. And we'll see how that works. It'll run fine with the base that it was saying, like whatever that was, 2048 memory and 2 CPUs. It'll work fine with that. But I want more power because I'm going to be running some powerful apps within that system. So we'll set it to those and we'll go forward. Now, next step, create a disk image for the virtual machine. Now, again, like I was saying, in the past, I would put this on a separate drive. So I would click on select or create custom storage and manage it, select the path, and then create the size of the drive. But you know what? I'm fine with just going with the defaults. It's actually going to be easier for me because I only have one drive here, so I may as well use the defaults. And so that's going to be in that lib directory, but I don't want 20. I'm going to make this bigger. I'm going to make that, I think 40 gig will be enough for this virtual machine. And one of the reasons I need to make it bigger is because when we do the live streams, they tend to, we tend to download a lot of stuff. For Terraform, we're going to download a lot of stuff, providers and plugins and so forth. And so 40 gigs should be good. So we'll leave it as that, go forward. And then it says ready to begin the installation. We want to name it. I'm going to call this template-debian-13-client. And so this is going to be a template that I work with, and I'm going to use a bash script and also an Ansible script to automatically copy this whenever I need it. And so it'll make a copy of the virtual machine and then automatically configure it as well. So this will be the template that we start off with. And we can go to customize configuration before install. Okay. And that'll show us the configuration screen before it actually starts the install. All right, so we'll click finish for that. Good. All right, and OS information. Again, it thinks it's Debian 12, but really it's going to be Debian 13. CPU's 4, memory 8 gigs. Boot options, we're going to boot off of that ISO image. And then we have all of our controllers. Our video is vert.io, which is good. Display is Spice, that's fine. Our network interface card is using vert.io, that's really quick, so we'll use that. And so that's all good. And we'll begin the installation. Okay, and that creates the domain. And it starts the install from the Debian ISO. Let me go full screen here so you can see it a little bit better. What should we do? Graphical install or text-based install? Let's go with graphical. And for all of you who are just connecting, again, this is Dave's Linux Labs, working in my lab here and updating my systems and doing all kinds of good stuff here. Right now, we're building a virtual machine within KVM that I will need for other live streams. So welcome, everyone. Let me know how you're doing in the group chat if you wish. Feel free to give some thumbs ups or hearts or whatever you like. And just about 10 concurrent people in here right now. Last week we had more, but as I mentioned, we didn't really specify that we were doing this today too much. All right, so let's do graphical install, and we'll start it up. Okay, and it's asking what language. I'm doing English. Just press enter for continue. My location is United States. I'm here in the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania. And American English for configuring the keyboard. There we go. Now, one of the things I forgot to do, and I'm just remembering now, is I forgot to set up a new network. I want to use a different network for these virtual machines. Now, it's not really a big deal because you can change that at any time. You can create the new networks at any time, and you can change that at any time. So that's something that I could do perhaps while this is installing. All right, so that's configuring the network right now. And we'll just keep going forward until it gets to the main install phase. So please enter the host name for this system. I'm going to call this template-debian 13-client. Press enter. Domain, we're not using a domain just yet, so we'll just press enter for that. And then we need passwords. Now, when you're working in Debian, Debian's a little bit different than some other Linux distros out there. With Debian, you have a root account and you have to configure the password for it. In other distros like Ubuntu or Fedora, you create your main account, and that is essentially given root access, but the root is kind of put on the shelf. So with Debian, it is an actual account that you can use right off the bat, and you do have to set a password for it right away. So I'm going to do that now. And tab down to the next one and confirm it. Press enter. And then it's saying, okay, put in a user account. Now, historically, I've used the user account user, which is kind of boring. I should really think of something better with this. We'll just say Dave for these. Okay, so we'll say Dave and press enter to continue. And that is going to be the username as well. Just leave it Dave, lowercase. And I'm going to select the password for that account because that's basically what's going on here. We have a separate root and user account, and we have to select passwords for each. Now, the user account's not going to get full access. We would have to apply full access or give sudo permissions to the user account as root. So we'll show that more later on if we have time. All right. Press enter to continue. Setting up the clock. We're in the Eastern Standard Time, so we'll press enter for that. Okay, that's going to detect the disks. Now, we're just setting up one 40 gigabyte drive, and I'm fine with just guided use entire disk. Now, for those of you that were watching my installs for my main system, you saw that I kind of made some separate partitions for, say, the home partition and the root partition. But for this, for the virtual machine, we just need one partition. So we'll do guided, use entire disk, press enter. And there's only one drive that we've assigned. It's that virtual drive that we created in KVM, and 42.9 gigabytes. It's 40 gig. Press enter. And I'm going to say all files in one partition. I'm not separating the home partition or anything like that. Press enter for that. And it shows the status here and an overview of what we have. And you can see that we have our primary partition, which is ext4. That's going to be the file system for it. And that's at 40 gig. And it's got a logical 2 gig swap partition. Now, different Linux distros will do this differently. For example, if you install Ubuntu, you're going to have a swap file in the root directory. But here with Debian, we have the separate swap partition. All right, so finish partitioning and write changes to disk. That's what we want. We'll press enter to continue. And it says if you continue, the changes listed below will be written to the disks. I'm going to say yes. So arrow down to yes and continue. And that's going to install the base system. Fantastic. So we'll let that go. I'm interested to know how fast this is going to be on this new computer. For those of you that weren't here last week, that this system is a Core i7. It's a 13700K CPU. And it's got a 3060 GPU and 64 gig of DDR5 RAM. So I'm wondering how fast these actually will go. All right, I'm going to go back to my virtual machine manager here. And I'm going to go to Edit and Preferences. Oh, I didn't want to go here. Going to go to File and go to sorry, it's a little bit the new size that I'm using is giving me a little bit of problems here. I can't really scroll among these. All right, so I want to go to File and go to Add Connection. Come on. Oh, it's already done. So much for doing the network. All right, so it says, we'll just go back to the install here. It says, if you wish to scan additional media, go for it now. I don't have any more, so we'll just say no and enter to continue. All right, then it's saying configure the package manager. And what we want for that, for me, is the United States. You'd want to pick a mirror of the Debian archive that is close to you. So we'll press enter for United States. And you know, depending on where you are in the world, you might want to use different Debian archive mirrors. I'm fine with deb.debian.org, so I'll press enter for that. Then it asks about a proxy. I'm not using a proxy, so I'll press enter. And that'll go ahead and configure apt and start installing the software. All right. Okay, so anyways, let's get back to the networking. I want to create a separate network because by default, what this system will do is it will create 192.168.122. That'll be the network number, and that'll place all the virtual machines on there. That's what KVM uses by default. But what I want to do is I want to create a separate network number that looks more like what people would use with VirtualBox. So I'm going to go to Connection Details and go to Virtual Networks. And you'll see the virtual network here. This is the default one that KVM builds by default, 192.168.122.0. And that's fine, but I actually want to have another one. So I'm going to click the plus sign and create a new network. I'll call this the 10 network. It's also going to be network address translation. You have lots of different modes here where it can be open. if you wanted an open network with, say, something that's on your local area network, or routed through a different area, or completely isolated. But I am going to select NAT as this. You can also select physical devices to forward to. If you had a second network interface card, you could forward to that automatically. But I'm going to leave this as NAT and any physical device, which is going to be my one and only wired connection by default. We'll go to IPv4 configuration, and we'll change this. So what I want is 10.0.2.0/24. Now, if you're running VirtualBox and you're running you have multiple virtual machines and you want them to communicate with each other, by default, they won't do that. And in order for them to do so, they need to be part of a NAT network. And so what you do is you build your NAT network, and then you go ahead and assign each of the virtual machines to that NAT network. Then they can communicate with each other. And when you do so, that automatically builds them as the 10.0.2 network. So what I'm trying to do here in KVM is emulate that, because a lot of people that come to my webinars will be using VirtualBox, and they'll be most likely running a NAT network and most likely on the 10.0.2 network. So I'm creating that to make it look the same, basically. So 10.0.2.0 is the network. I want to have a lot of static IPs reserved. And what KVM does by default is it says, okay, well, you can have a DHCP server to automatically hand out IP addresses to your virtual machines. And it does it in such a way where it thinks, okay, we're not going to use the entire range. We're not going to do 1 to 254. Instead, we're going to do 128 to 254. And that works perfectly for me, because normally my virtual machines, I'll call them something between 1 and 100. So this is actually perfect, enabling DHCP in this manner. You can also work with IPv6 and have a DNS domain name, but I don't need those for these particular virtual machines just yet. But here we go. We have the 10 network, and we have the details for it. And that'll also save as an XML file, which you can modify if you needed to directly in the command line. You could also create these networks using the virsh command in the command line, but we'll just do it here in the virtual machine manager for now, just to get it done quick. It's definitely faster, unless you have a big config that you have to do. But for one-off things like this, pretty easy. All right, so this looks good. We'll click finish, and that creates the new network. And so you might have the question, can you have multiple networks? And the answer is yes. So we can have the 192 network, we can have the 10 network, and other networks, even public networks that connect directly out through the network interface card, or routed networks. You can have them all here. But seeing as how I didn't build this yet until it wasn't built till after I started the install of the virtual machine, this virtual machine is going to connect to the default. But we can always change that in the virtual machine settings, and it'll just be a new DHCP config after that. All right, good. So that is done. We'll minimize that. Go back to my virtual machine installation. It says the system may anonymously supply statistics. It's called the popcorn popularity contest, or PopCon. What did I say? Popcorn, but PopCon. But I'm going to say no for this. I would say yes if it was a system that I was using as like a real workstation or a laptop. But this is just a virtual machine, and virtual machines have a way of skewing the statistics for the developers. So I would always say no for this for educational systems. And we'll click continue for that. That's going to bring us to task cell, or TASKSEL, the task selector. And from here, we can select what we want for our desktop. Now for training, what I'll normally do is set up GNOME. Normally, once in a while it'll be KDE, but usually it'll be GNOME. So I'll leave the default there, Debian desktop environment with GNOME. But I'm also going to select SSH server, because I'm going to want to have SSH on there so that it can automatically be communicated with by a variety of different systems and Ansible and so forth. So the SSH server is selected, and that should be it. Now you can have multiple desktops if you wanted to in Linux, but they can cause conflicts. So you have to watch for that, especially if you're trying to run something like XFCE and GNOME. You could definitely see some conflicts with that. So normally I would just recommend one at a time. If you want to work with another one, maybe do it with a virtual machine or a live USB or something like that. All right, so this looks good. We'll go to continue, and that'll continue selecting and installing the software. We're at 400 of 1,400 packages or thereabouts. Very good. All right, while this is working, let's continue on a little bit. And that's our Debian virtual machine golden image that we're using here. And so another thing I wanted to work on was my fish config. Right? So let's go over to our terminal once again. Let's break out of that. Okay, so I'm using fish right now. So if I type things, quite often you will see little gray portions of text that show what I've typed before, or maybe it's guessing what I might want to do. So fish is really nice like this. But you can also configure fish some, and you can do that with fish_config. And if we press enter, that's going to open up a browser window. And I'll bring that over here. And from here, we can change the colors, the prompt, functions, variable, lots of stuff on here. I'm just going to change the colors in the prompt right now. So for colors, we can go down and we can look at different themes that they have. And this might change actually later. I might install the Dracula theme. I really like that. It has a Dracula theme here. Actually, you know what? Let's just go with that one, since that's built into Fish. So we'll click that and we'll set that theme. And now we should have that as our main theme. And we'll also change the prompt. Right now I have it all as one line. And when you're connecting to lots of different directories, sometimes the path can get kind of long. So one of the prompts that I like here that they have is astronaut, which puts your information on the top line and then what you type on the second line. So click that and set that prompt as astronaut. Good. And lots of other cool stuff that you could do here. Functions, you can put in your own functions in Fish and go wild with it. On my old system, I have a lot of these and I'm going to have to carry them over. Variables as well, different variables for what you're connecting to. History, and also bindings if you want to bind certain things as well. So if you want to have commands bound, you could do that here. You can also do it in the command line. But this should be good. If we open up a new prompt here, you'll see that the colors are going to be a little bit different and a little bit more purpley and green and so on. If we go to top, well, actually, that's not a good example. But if we change over to something like ETC and take a look, it's all blues and greens and purples. So that is the Dracula color scheme. And you can see that we have my prompt here, and then we have another line altogether for where we're typing actual commands. I like that layout. Works pretty well for me. All right, let's take a look at that virtual machine. All right, still going. Let's jump over to something else here. I'm going to do this now because I'm always installing Debian's, I'm always upgrading Debian Sid. And this was another thing on the list. I actually want to get that started. So I'm going to connect to my laptop that runs Debian Sid. And connect now. All right, one more time. And we might have a IP error here. So let me take a look. because this one actually gets its IP automatically over the network. This is 210.6. Let's take a look. Let's edit the connection. Oh, wrong one. 210.6. Let's try it again. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe I was connecting to the wrong system or something. All right, here we go. So this is my Debian Sid machine. That's it's just a laptop. It's like 10 years old. This is what I keep up with all the Debian Sid updates. And get me out of the way here. Let me know how you're doing out there in the group chat. Okay, so let's take a look. And so I always update my system here on Mondays. That's when I'm updating Sid to find out what is the newest stuff coming down the pike from Debian. And so to do that, we'll do a sudo apt upgrade. Excuse me, a sudo apt update. My apologies. And really, I'm just going to do a $& sudo apt upgrade as well, because I do want to upgrade it all the way, regardless of what happens. Actually, no. Actually, I don't. I want to check this system first. And this is real time, so I'm double thinking sometimes here and correcting myself, but that's what happens in real time. So let's do a sudo apt update, and we'll take a look here. Okay, good. And let's see how many packages can be grabbed. 267 packages. All right. So one of the main things I want to find out here is whether or not the GNOME shell is going to be upgraded. If Debian Sid has a new upgrade for that. I haven't read up on that yet. So let's scroll down here a little bit. Okay, and GNOME shell common still at 48.5 because 48.5 is what the system is using right now. Okay, GNOME shell 48.5 but -3. Okay, so an update to the 48.5 minor release. That's okay. I just don't want to go to 48.6 just yet because I need to do testing on it first. We also have a lot of unstable 49, GNOME 49 stuff here, but that's all right. Also, I want to take a look at libvirt and KVM and QEMU to see if anything's going to be updated for that. So we do have a lot of updates for KVM. Also OpenSSH. What is OpenSSH updating to? Okay, 10.2 P1. All right. And then look for QEMU. I don't see any QEMU updates. All right, so I'm sorry. This looks good. So we're going to do a sudo apt upgrade. Press enter, and I'm going to check if they have any change logs, anything that's changing for these new systems. So we'll say yes for this upgrade on my Debian Sid system. Read those change logs, give that a minute. And check the status. Okay, so this is the status of my Debian 13 virtual machine I'm installing in KVM. We've gotten to the grub portion here, and yes, I want to use grub as my bootloader, and that's generally what I'm going to do with the virtual machine, so press enter for that. And you have to specify the drive that that'll install to, so that's going to be /dev/VDA, and we'll press enter. That's the only one, that's the virtual drive that KVM created. That'll install the Grub bootloader and finish the installation. Okay, let's head back to laptop. All right, there are some change logs. Okay, apt list changes, urgency medium, wire plumber. Oh, that's it. Okay, so Wire Plumber adds support of MPRIS Media Player pause functionality. I'm not really too interested in that, although I am a fan of Wire Plumber for audio use, but that is fine. We'll press Q to quit. That's the only change log here, and that'll go ahead and start upgrading the Debian Sid system. All right, we'll let that go. Head back to the Debian 13 virtual machine, and installation is complete. Okay, good. Let's see if it boots properly. We'll continue to reboot and see how it goes here. All right, and it sees the boot screen for Grub, and we're off to the races. Let's see how fast it boots on this system. Okay, it is booted. Let's go full screen on that. Good, good, good. And log in as my only account here, Dave. Press enter. And we are in. I'm going to skip the tour for GNOME. Don't really need that. And at this point, we have the virtual machine. This is going to need a lot of tweaking, though. We're going to need to tweak the resolution. We're going to need to tweak the sizes, install programs, get SSH set up properly and the keys so that I can configure it remotely as I need to. Remember, this is a template that I'm using, basically a golden image that I'm going to recreate over and over again with the various webinars that I run. All right. But real quick, we'll open a terminal here. Okay. Good. And let's run an IPA command. And we can see, yes, we got the IP address 192.168.122.107. Now we said that's not the network I want to use, but I hadn't created the other network yet. So we'll shut this down. Oh, Dave is not a sudoer. We'll just have to shut down the old way. And so a lot of work here to do. I want Dave to be a sudoer, so I'm going to have to do that as the root account. And just to show that real quick, I'm going to change over to the root account. The only way I can get in a Debian system is if I know the password that I assigned to the root account. And so I'll type that in now. Now I'm connected as root. And so I can assign my Dave account administrative permissions or make it a sudoer by using the usermod command -A capital G, and then specify the group and then the user that I want to add to it. Okay. Now, just to check it, make sure I type that correctly, do an ID on Dave and make sure that Dave is indeed part of the sudoers now, and Dave is. All right. But either way, I'm still going to just close out here and we'll power this off completely. Okay. Very good. Go back to our virtual machine manager. Close this. What else do I have open? Close out the connection details. And in the virtual machine manager, I'll go to my virtual machine, right click on it. Actually, no, let's just double click it to open it again. My apologies. And we'll go to information. In information, we can change the networking for this. So if we go to the NIC, we'll see that the network source is the virtual network known as default. That's the default network that KVM built, which is 192.168.122. I don't want to use that. I want to use the new network that I created, which is 10. And we can refresh this. It's not really going to do anything because the system isn't running right now. If the system was running, we could refresh this and you'd get the new IP. All right. But 10 is what I want. We're going to apply that. And then I'll start the virtual machine back up by clicking the play button. Go to the screen here. Go to full screen, log back in as Dave. Open up a terminal. And run that IPA command. And now we are getting an IP address automatically on the 10 network. Now let's check it out. Can we ping the basic gateway that's created by KVM? The answer is yes. Can we ping out to the internet? And it looks like the answer is yes. It's resolving. And there's the replies. So that's good. So networking now functions. Now, in reality, what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this IP address. I'm going to do that so that it uses a static IP. And you know what? Let's just do it now. We can do that. Now that I have sudo powers, if I run an ID command, you'll see I am an administrator on this computer now. I am a sudoer. I have sudo powers. Now we can actually make changes here. Now, one of the commands that I'll run is nmcli to see my network connection. And we do this a lot in the Linux networking and security webinar. We just ran that last week, and we'll be running another one in January. But we do all this kind of stuff with nmcli. So we could change the IP address. We could do it in the settings. We could go to network, go to the sprocket here, go to IPv4 and change it to a manual IP if we wanted to. But we can also do that with nmcli. Let's go crazy with nmcli. Now, first of all, I said I run an nmcli to see what the name of the connection is. The name of the connection is wired connection 1. So I'm going to do an nmcli connection modify on wired connection 1. And I'm going to change the method. So I'm going to add these arguments here. IPv4.method. Normally, this would be set to auto for a client, meaning it would obtain an IP address automatically. But I don't want that. I want manual, and I'm going to assign the IP address manually myself. Once we do that, we need at least 3 pieces of information. We need the IP address, we need the gateway, and we need the DNS server IP that we're going to report to. So the first argument here is IPv4.address. And the address I want to use is 10, and that's just going over the screen. So 10.0.2.52. That's normally what I'll use for my Debian client. And we'll add /24 to that because we want it to use a 255.255.255 subnet mask. Next, IPv4.gateway. What is the gateway that we're connecting to? Well, on my system here, in this KVM system, I just created the 10.0.2.0 network. So the gateway for that it makes automatically for me is 10.0.2.1. So I really don't have to do much more. That's basically kind of like a jump host that does, it acts as a gateway, it acts as a DNS forwarder, it acts as a DHCP server, and it's all built into that KVM virtualization platform. And this is the way that most virtualization platforms will work today. But that is the gateway. And we also need to know the IP address of the DNS server or forwarder that we're going to report to. And that's going to be 10.0.2.1 as well. Press enter for that. And it looks good. Now we just have to up that connection. And it says successfully activated. We'll do an nmcli again. And we'll see that the IP address has changed. Now, this is a static IP that won't change, so I don't have to worry about any DHCP servers giving it a different IP address later, which is very possible because I run a lot of virtual machines in KVM, right? So 10.0.2.52 is now set. Let's test it. Okay, replies from the gateway and replies from Proust.tech. Fantastic. So that's just one of the many things that I'll do to create this golden machine. I'm going to make some additional modifications. I mentioned SSH and get it Ansible ready. I'm going to install VS Code or probably VS Codium to it and make some other configuration changes, change the resolution and that kind of thing. And once that's all done, I'll have my template and I can use that and make copies of it whenever I need it for a webinar or a live stream or whatever it is that I'm doing. All right, let's take a look at the laptop. All right, so the Sid laptop has completed its update. So we're going to reboot now. We'll reboot that laptop. All right, and what else are we doing? All right, so I configured Fish, right? We did some configurations for Fish, and I also want to work with Starship. So Starship is another prompt that you can use. There's lots of good prompts out there. There's Powerline, and there's a bunch of others. But I'm going to use Starship on my main system, right? So let's go back to well, we have a couple terminals open here. Here we go. Now we changed this over in Fish. We changed the look of the prompt, and that'll change further once we use Starship. And I also changed the color scheme to using Dracula. So I want to get with Starship. And don't forget to like this live stream if you can. I'd appreciate it. And again, new people coming in. So for those of you coming in, this is Dave's Live Linux Labs, a weekly thing that I'm doing where I'm configuring the stuff in my lab. Pretty straightforward. And so I am Dave, and it's all part of Prouse Tech. All right, let's take a look here. What am I doing? No idea. Oh yeah, Starship. All right, I think I have Starship open already. So Starship, the cross-shell prompt. You could use this on Windows, Mac OS, and of course Linux, BSD. So this is real nice. And so what it does is it shows something like this. It'll give nice symbology on your prompts. So you can see things like, okay, we're connected via Git to master or main. It'll show you if you're working in Python. It'll show a lot of different things with icons and names. So this is a really cool prompt to use. Now, to work with it, they recommend a nerd font. They really like Fira code. I like Hack, but a lot of the monospace fonts will work as well that are out there. In fact, the built-in ones. Noto is also a good one. But you want to use a nerd font in order for it to work properly and be able to see all the icons that Starship makes in the prompt. So then we need to install it. So I'm using Linux here, and they have a one-liner. Nice curl command, one-liner. So we'll do that, paste that in. Oh, I don't have curl yet. Like I said, brand new system. So let's install curl here. Okay, good. That's installed. And now we can actually do, oh, I'm sorry. I'm covering up this stuff. Sorry about that. So what I was trying to do was run this command here, but I didn't have curl, so I had to install curl. And Polkit, don't worry about it. Red Hat is awesome. Were you in one of my webinars with O'Reilly? Just wondering. Red Cat. There you go. So that's the word of the day, Red Cat. Otherwise known as a fox or whatever. But Red Hat is awesome. And so, of course, Red Hat 10 is out as well, and CentOS 10. It's all Linux. It's all awesome. It's all really what you choose to use. So at the Linux webinar we did, 2-day webinar last week, there was a lot of pro Red Hat people, and they love using the DNF package manager. And I can totally see that, you know, DNF is awesome in a lot of ways. If you're using Ubuntu like I am, or Debian, and a lot of other systems that I'm using, it's APT, all right? And so it's a totally different animal. I mean, they work in a similar fashion. They're both package managers, but they are different. There's no doubt about it. And then you have the Arch people that'll tell you that Pacman is the best. So to each their own. If you're running Linux, though, Linux is definitely awesome. Right. So Polkit, you've got the certifications. You've just got to get the experience now. So the key now is to just get your foot in the door wherever you can, wherever you can. And that's what I did when I started out. I mean, I started out building just PCs. I would build PCs. This is way back. And someone liked what I knew about motherboards, and it got me in the door. I wasn't building PCs with them. I was actually working with handheld devices, but same type of stuff. And it got me in the door. And I was there for 6 months, and I found another job, and I was able to build up the experience over time and get that 2 to 3 years experience. Now, again, some companies are going to say, hey, you got to have AWS and Terraform 5 years experience. Come on. That's not going to be a reality for most companies. They're going to say that, but then they're going to hire what they can get. And that could be a person with much less experience. So keep that in mind and don't let it get you down. And we could talk resumes and job seeking all day probably, but that's not what we're doing here. Feel free to contact me on my Discord server for more. But definitely awesome so far. And I like that you're building a profile also. Build that profile. Have the list of the things that you are working on and have created all your projects. It helps. Every little bit helps. But the number one thing that's going to help is who you know. Get to know people. Get in there and know people as much as you can, right? All right, so let's get back into this install Starship. And I don't know, I just started doing those recommendations, Polkit, pal. But all right, so it says install Starship latest to USR local bin. Yes, we're going to do it. Installing Starship as root. Okay, did we have an error? Oh no, this is what it always does. It shows all the different shells, and it tells you what you need to do if you are running that shell. For example, for bash, you have to go to your .bashrc and add this line item. For ZSH, which is also great, by the way. Oops, sorry. For ZSH, you have to add this line item. Well, it's basically the same line item. Just ZSH instead of bash. And then you have all these others, right? I'm using fish. So I'm going to add this line item, but it's going to go to my fish config file. That's how we're going to do that. All right, so Starship init fish pipe source. You also have Elvish, which is cool. New Shell, which is cool. I kind of like that on Windows, to be honest with you. PowerShell, of course, if you use it in Windows, and so on and so forth. All right. So what I need to do is get to my fish configuration. That's going to be in .config. I'm sorry, not typing right here. That's just config. Oh, I'm in etc right now. So anyway, that's going to be .config and go to fish and then go to, well, we'll just go inside there and take a look because I don't think I've shown this yet. Right, so connections are important. And that's basically it. I mean, it's trying to build that experience however you can, right? Getting the connections, good attitude, team player, that kind of thing. And being persistent. That's probably the number one thing. I have some type of video on finding jobs somewhere. It might be in the A+ video series. I'm not sure. But somewhere, either on my website or on O'Reilly, maybe I can find that and link it later. But a little bit about, job seeking. So anyways, we're in the location here, and we want to go to config.fish and add that line item. So I'm going to do a config vim on config.fish. And I still have the vim errors. I need to get that fixed. We'll go to the end of this file, and we'll add that entry that we need, which is Starship, init, fish, and pipe source. Good. Okay. And you know what? I'll just add a comment here. Starship shell. It's not a shell. What am I talking about? Prompt. Okay, close out of there. Save and quit. All right. Now, if we open a new terminal, you can see that the terminal here has changed a little bit. I don't even have to do like a source bash or anything like that. It'll automatically come up because we're using fish here. But now our prompt has actually changed. I'm not seeing my name at the top anymore, which is fine. I don't really want that. Because what I was showing in fish previously was this. And it would show my username and also computer name, and then the path, and then the command goes below. But I don't really care about the username and the computer name. I can find that information out by doing, say, an ID. I know who I am. I know who I logged in as. But sometimes if you're working in other accounts, maybe you want to see what that account is. So maybe with other accounts, we use different shells or not. We don't use Starship. Who knows? But with the ID command, I can see who I am and what I am. And with the hostname or hostname CTL command, I can find out what the name of the computer is. So I'm not really too worried about that. And so with that new prompt, we don't have that. It just shows the path at the top, and it'll show icons for things depending on a variety of factors, whether you're trying to connect to a secure location in Linux. So for example, in Linux, this is administrative territory. This is territory for root. This is kernel stuff. So it's going to show the padlock in the locked position. And you can see this icon came up fine. Let's see what font we're using here. And it's just the default monospace font, which is usually fine nowadays. But if that doesn't work with Starship, you can use something like Fira Code, which they recommended, or Hack. I like that one as well. There's a bunch of others, but essentially you want what's known as one of those nerd fonts, right? Okay, good. So for example, if I was to change over here and take a look, if I change over to code, inside that I have lots and lots of code that I work on, like in Git. If I change over to this is a extension that I maintain for GNOME. It's Draw on GNOME, and inside there I have lots of different branches for it. But if we change over to one like Draw on GNOME, which is the main one, you'll see Draw on GNOME on main via this. So icon's not really coming out right. So maybe I will change over to Hack. That's what I'll do quite often in the terminal. I plan to use Tilix here also. So that's going to use different fonts as well. But I'll probably change the main GNOME terminal over to it as well. So, all right. So Polkit, I like fish. I don't like fish liver shell. I've never tried it. I don't like fish livers either. I have tried them. But I do like the fish shell on my main workstation, but not on servers. If I'm doing anything on servers or the virtual machine that I built, over here. Oh no, that's my, I guess it is. That's a virtual machine. So I'll stick with bash on this, right? If we do an echo $0, we see, yep, we're using bash here. Any servers that I work with, stick with bash. That's what I always recommend. Or SH, but generally bash. But for the main workstation or for a laptop, yeah, I'll start getting funky with it and using things like fish. That's my favorite. ZSH is also good. And also the Starship shell on there. Very good. All right. So where are we at here? Starship is set up, but I've got to set up a nerd font. So we'll do that. But otherwise, Starship is configured, and we have the Dracula color scheme, which is just too much fun. All right, next, need a countdown script. Okay, need a countdown script. So a couple things about countdown scripts here. Historically, I've used a countdown program from someone named Anton Med V, and it's really awesome. So I want to install that. But I had been working on a countdown script for a while, and I was working on it in Bash at first, but then I switched over to C. And so here it is. This is the countdown script, and all written in C. And it's a little penguin countdown. And that I've already installed on here. And so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, I've got that. And it's a new repository that I just built here called Fun. And so here's the repository. That's the Fun repository. And I'm going to add to this as we go. And you can see it's got Countdown Penguin in here, and there's instructions on how to use it. So that's the first of the Fun repository. But that actually works now. So if I was to do something like Countdown Penguin, 5 seconds, press enter. We've got our 5-second timer here. Okay, and break is over. All right, so there we go. Got a nice timer that you can use for whatever amount of time you want. Now, I don't want to go past another 10 minutes here for this live stream, so I'll just set the timer in there. Why not? Keep that timer going. I can keep an eye on it as I'm changing windows here. But there's another countdown script that I like a lot, and that is, I was mentioning, from Anton Med V. It's a really cool countdown script. And here it is. This is the guy here. I'll paste that in the group chat as well. Okay, so this is fun. And he does a little confetti thing now too. That's what I did. Very cool. All right, so that's new with this version here. And the install instructions are all listed here. Okay. So you can install this as a brew if you like doing it on Mac OS. It's also got the Linux install for this. So I'm actually going to do that here. And let's copy over all the syntax for this. Here we go. We got an export command and then a wget for the countdown program. Good. Grabbed it super fast, real small program, well written. I believe that's in C also. The thing is, it just put it in here. That's not really where I wanted it. And that's fine. We can move it. But first, let's change the change the permissions on it and make it executable. Sorry. Plus X on countdown. Good. Now, if we take a look again, it's green. And we can move that. And we'll move that over to /usr /bin. Permission denied. Got to say sudo here. All right, good. All right, not here anymore. We didn't really want it there. And we just wanted it in USR bin. Let's see if it actually runs. And it does. There we go. So now we got our old school countdown that I like so much. If you need to break out of it, you could do with Control C. Let's just do 5 seconds and see if it ends with confetti the way it showed with 1.5. It did not. So unfortunately, that wget command did not grab that. I would have to grab the latest one. But we could always just grab the binary from there and download it to USR bin if we wanted to. And nicely, Anton has all the releases here. And we see 1.5 right here. We can grab the source code or just grab it from the main Git repository. But yeah, unfortunately, oh, he has a Go install also. Could do that. So lots of options. So check that out if you like countdowns. Here's my other countdown. We got about 6 minutes left. All right, so countdown script is done. We've got two that we can use now, one with a Q penguin and one with just numbers. And so, yeah, Polkit, the Linux GUI is definitely getting more resource hungry over time. GNOME has become bigger. It's true. I can't say that KDE is lighter though. In my opinion, KDE is a heavier, KDE Plasma is a heavier desktop. I've done comparisons on Debian and Ubuntu virtual machines, same virtual machines, and it just feels heavier. It might not be as much as far as data, but it feels heavier when I'm using it. So, you know, if you want something lightweight, you want like XFCE or something like that. But, you know, with the right system configured in the right way, with the right video driver, it shouldn't really matter too much. And any of these Linux desktops, including GNOME and KDE, they are going to be lighter weight than, say, Windows or Mac OS. Now, you're saying KDE, your Linux Mint GNOME uses 2.6 gigabytes. Now, if you install Linux Mint, by default, it comes with Cinnamon, which is also a bit heavy. And of course, you can use XFCE with that. But see, now you've piqued my interest. If we go to top here and take a look, and let's look at the GNOME, GNOME desktop. All right, so this is all the GNOME stuff. And what it's using right now for me, and what you want to see is this, your res memory, resident memory. I mean, if I total that up, unless I'm missing something, we're only at a gig, not even a gig. And so that number of 2.6 gig for Linux Mint GNOME, that's kind of interesting. Unless you mean that that's the entire OS, you know, running on the system. But this is one way to kind of check that. It runs pretty well for me. And, you know, I think that's kind of along their guidelines, is they want it to run within a gig of RAM or less. But yes, they have become more powerful in general. Both KDE and GNOME have become much bigger desktops over time. But even on my, you know, 12-year-old laptop here, which I'm logging into right now, and we'll reconnect to in No Machine once that comes up here. And that's not popping up. Let's close that and bring No Machine back up here. Still not seeing it. But anyways, the laptop is like, this is a laptop with 4 gigs of RAM. Here we go. Took a moment after login. Let's connect. Sometimes a little bit of a lag getting on the network and having the No Machine server start up on that laptop. But I mean, if you take a look at this, this is, it's not bad. This is a 12-year-old laptop with a, what is it? It's a Core i5, like 2 gigahertz with 4 gigs of RAM, I think. Let's open a terminal to find that out. And yeah, this is, oh no, this is 8 gigs, sorry. So 8 gigs of DDR4 RAM. And if we take a look here, okay, run the GNOME shell. Now I do have GNOME Terminal open also and GNOME Calendar, and so that's something that may increase the amount here. But if we were to add all these up, we got 68 meg, blah, blah, blah. It's actually running less on this system than it does on my main system. And that's one of the cool things about GNOME is they kind of design the desktop to recognize what type of platform you're running on. Are you running on an older system, an older laptop, or a big powerful PC, or just a small virtual machine, and adjust as necessary. But this is actually, pretty, I'm just hitting the super user key and it's pretty good. It's pretty clear. We get a little bit of hiccups here because, I'm connected to this through No Machine, and also you're watching this as a live stream, but it's pretty accessible, pretty productive. And that's why I keep using this as my testing Debian Sid system. So we bring something up, calculator. That actually did take a moment to come up. But still not bad for a testing system, and it's 12 years old. All right, cool. And so that is updated, and actually I did want to take a look at that guy. I'm going to close this and this. We don't need that. Oh, but I did want my terminal. Whoops. Oh, I have to fix that. That's a No Machine thing. Okay. And so I want to see what the GNOME shell version is now. So yeah, we're still at 48.5-3, I think they said it was upgrading to. So, one of the things that I'm making sure with this is I want to make sure that the draw on your screen software that I use will still function every time Debian Sid comes out with a new version of GNOME. And I want to make sure that it functions and that nothing crashes it. And so it looks good. Close out of that. And that is the draw on GNOME. And you can use this as long as you use the GNOME desktop. So I'll paste that into the chat. If you're interested, there's the link for it. Draw on GNOME right at Dave Prowse. All right, cool. But it looks like it works. And it looks like we're just about out of time here as well. Been on here for an hour and a half, so that's going to pretty much wrap it up. We did just about everything I wanted to. Recapped why I'm live streaming, and I'm still working on the video for that main system that I built and going to get that out at some point. Fix that fast fetch config file blunder. Fix the KVM install. Basically, it was just a restart of the system. And we went ahead and created a new network, and we built a new Debian virtual machine golden image. I have a little bit more work to do with that before I can use it, but it's getting there. We showed how to configure fish, and we also started using the Starship prompt. We worked on our countdown scripts. Now we have 2 of those, and we also updated Debian Sid. I didn't do it on my other workstation, but we'll be doing that soon. And that's about it. So we definitely did a lot of stuff today to get this system, my main system, up and running to the point where I need it. Still a lot more configuration to do for what I need to do for my webinars and live streams and for work with customers. But we're definitely getting there. So that was awesome. That is about it. So I'm going to sign off now, and thanks everybody for coming on board. And the recording for this will be up on YouTube shortly. And that's about it. So that's about it for Dave's Live Linux Labs. This is the 2nd episode. Great to have everyone here. I'm Dave, and I'm signing off. Take care, everyone.